Hello and happiest of days to each of you folks. I hope you guys are having just an absolutely amazing day today and that this video finds you as well as possible. So today on Friday on my channel, I like to take looks at previous top 10s and that sort of a thing too. Recently I started off showing with a lot of top 10 movies and TV shows too, like the top 10 sci-fi films that were classic and done before I was born, stuff like that too. Fantasy films, horror films, top 10 indie films, that's all that other stuff, and that sort of a thing too. I finished that out and then did my top 10 authors, since I do a lot of print reviews for this game, and then a separate one too. And then I slid into my favorite books of all times. I'm going to do three eras of books for you folks. And top 30 of books overall for you folks. And now, as you will note, just as a heads up, my top 10, my novels tend to be dominated by fantasy here, and then the occasional science fiction one here and there. My first favorite author and genre was fantasy. Was J.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings, and I stayed in a fantasy for a while and did a deep dive into things like R.A. Salvatore became my favorite author, Michael Moorcock became my favorite author, and that sort of thing too. Then in college, I started to read H.P. Lovecraft, and horror became my favorite genre. Then moving forward, I feel like the horror short story is particularly compelling, and I've read thousands of horror stories since then, and that sort of thing too, because I feel like you can definitely keep that suspension. I feel that's actually the better way to deliver. Only two horror novels hit my top, and those were Mary Shelley's The Haunting of Hill House. I definitely put her on the map, and Haunted Houses on the map in a major way, and Dracula by Bram Stoker. But now we're going to have tons of those. Also tons of science fiction, because I read a couple of collections. One in college called The Greatest Sci-Fi Stories of All Time, with a few things that have already hit, and some will hit this week. And then I've also read all the science fiction Hall of Fame by the science fiction writers, from all the best stories that were ever written that have sort of been at it, and that sort of thing too. So they'll represent too, and then you'll see the occasional fantasy thing here, and there may be one or two, and that sort of a thing too, because I typically will go back and sometimes read fantasy stories and collections and that sort of a thing for y'all. But here we go. Let's get this thing started. So number 10 or number 20, based on how you want to see it, is Robert E. Heinlein's The Roads Must Roll from 1940. It's in the Hall of Fame. It's also in the greatest sci-fi short stories collection. So I've read it twice. Actually, once more for that channel to review it. Great stuff. Love it lots. Heinlein's a great author. He's considered one of the big three in the era, along with Arthur C. Clarke and Isaac Asimov. And he's typically more well known for his novels like Starship Troopers, that's what I do, or but this is incredibly great stuff. And so I adore what's happening here. So basically, what's happening in this short story is that we have we're set in the future where transits become faster. And then there is some labor action which threatens what's happening, and then some later stuff will happen too. It's great stuff, great descriptions, love it lots. And that's number 10, Robert E. Heinlein's The Roads Must Roll from 1940. Now number 8 is another Robert E. It's Howard in this case, and this is my favorite Conan story of all time, and this is Beyond the Black River from 35. Love it lots. You can definitely tell that he's at the classic apex of his writing. Nothing is going to be better for him. That sort of thing too. It was my last one in my Conan collection, so I have a great thing in here. For example, this just shows how great of a writer and exciting stuff. He has a combat scene with a creature and a gladiatorial combat, basically, and then it's a saber-toothed tiger. It's pretty simple stuff, right? His description of its unnatured and it's out of the era, that sort of thing too, is incredibly strong. Love it. That's my favorite Conan short of all time, and that is Robert E. Howard's Beyond the Black River. Number 8 is Flowers for Algernon, which is from by Daniel Keyes in 1558. I'm sorry, 1500. It's won the Hugo and is in the Hall of Fame too. Love it lots. I have read it for this short story collection. I have read it for a few times. Great stuff. It's actually a pretty fast read, but the ideas in flowers for Algernon, classic. What's happening? Classic. Love it lots. But the idea of using genetic things to uplift somebody who might need some additional. It feels a little bit like Captain America, who depreciates strength because he wasn't born strong, wasn't able to work out for it either. He definitely appreciates the use of strength more. I definitely enjoy what's happening for Algernon. Lots, no spoilers. All right, so number 7 is a novella. Sorry, but this is At the Mountains of Madness by H.P. Lovecraft. It's from 31. It's set in Antarctica. There's an expedition. He tries to keep this as scientifically grounded as possible. Also, something horror too. Great stuff. You might consider this a little bit of a sort of an unpacking of his Cthulhu mythos too, because he will sort of make some changes here. And that sort of a thing too. But I definitely enjoy what's happening here. I love it lots. The darker cosmic horror, the longer it takes. Great descriptions. That sort of thing too. That's number 7, The Mountains of Madness by H.P. Lovecraft. I'll also be hitting again, surprise. So number 6, short story, is Ambrose Bierce's An Occurrence in Owl Creek Bridge from 1890. And for you folks, this is a longer one. He's incredibly gifted and talented wordsmith. Everything he wrote is just so strong, so well done. Like every paragraph has at least 1 or 2 lines that make me say, I didn't know English could do that. That sort of a thing too. It's an absolute classic too. The ending, the shock ending. Many people love this so much that they actually started to take and run with this too. I love it so much. It's an absolute classic to my mind. That's An Occurrence at Owl Street Bridges, 1890. It also influenced at least Twilight Zones. I remember there's a Twilight Zone episode of this too, if I remember correctly. Top 5 time. Number 5 is The Great God Pan by Arthur Machen in 1894. So Arthur Machen was a great author from the British Isles. He was heavily strong in horror and that sort of thing too. So this is basically what's happening. The basic central core content of The Great God Pan, it's a little longer too, is that there are mysteries that if we knew the truth of, we would just absolutely go mad and crazy. And so somebody has developed a drug that pushes them to see these truths. Love it lots. I think it's great stuff. Arthur Machen was an absolute classic. And this short story in the horror genre definitely stood the test of time. Number 4 time. Number 4 time is actually not a sci-fi fantasy or horror story. It's by Shirley Jackson though, and she hit already once. This is 1948. It's a water for you folks. It's a strong stuff. Love it lots. So basically, what's happening? They're surprised, but this is kind of set in an American smaller village, and that sort of a thing that's about to have a lottery election. That sort of a thing too. You can check it out. I actually love this so much. I actually copied it and used its ending in one of my werewolf online video games. And that sort of a thing too. It's also set in West Virginia, which is also a smaller area. And that sort of a thing too. Love it lots. So that's The Lottery by Shirley Jackson from 48 for you folks. Now top 3 time. Number 3 is one of my favorite sci-fi films of all time. Short stories of all time. It's also in the Hall of Fame too. This is from 1943. It's by the tag team of Henry Kuttner and C.L. Moore. It's called Mimsy Where the Boar Graves. Of course, it's a quote from the C.S. Lewis. I'm sorry, C.S. Lewis. Yeah, Chronicles of Narnia. Yeah. No, it's a quote from the Alice in Wonderland stuff. And that sort of thing will involve them too. What happens here? The ending, absolute classic, no spoilers. Fun stuff, love it lots. It's just so well done, so well descripted, so well concepted, and you're just engaged. But basically, what's happening is that a mother and a father with a couple of kids have are a little on the brighter side, and then time travel will start to happen, and you'll love it lots. That is number 3. Now, top 2 down. Number 2, our penultimate short story, is The Seven Gaseouses by Clark Ashton Smith from 1934. This is my favorite fantasy short story of all time. I love it lots. It is technically set in the mythos, but it's a fantasy. But basically what's happening here is that our main character is coming across a darker area that is run in a cavernous complex. Right, and then he is given these various gashes, which is how it's pronounced. It looks like giz, but it's pronounced gash. It's an Irish word, and then he has to go and do various things. And that sort of a thing too. You meet various areas. He does a deep dive into this sort of under deepish, dark cavern of various dark beasts and that sort of a thing too. Mostly in the Cthulhu mythos and the ending to my mind, absolutely classic, heavily influential on Dungeons and Dragons to the early era by under Gary Gygax. And on number 1 is Reggie Barlow and H.P. Lovecraft's The Night Ocean. And it's from 36. This is really more of an edit by Lovecraft than the main short story. It was written by Reggie Barlow too as well. I adore this short story. What's happening here? It's to my mind, it's one of the best combinations of horror and awesomeness. And you're like, wow, I just love this scene, but I don't want to have it happen in my life, and that sort of a thing too. Basically, what's happening here is that our point of view character has rented, and is a writer too, has rented a cabin along the woods, right? I'm sorry, along the seashore, and that sort of thing too, off of the season for cheaper things, and that sort of a thing too. So he'll interact with folks and that sort of a thing too. What happens, the horror, the writing, it's just so well done, and that's The Night Ocean. So let's go over my top 10 really quickly once more. Number 10 is Robert E. Heinlein's The Roads Must Roll, and then number 9 is Robert E. Howard's Beyond the Black River. Number 8 is Flowers for Algernon. Number 7 is At the Mountains of Madness by H.P. Lovecraft. Number 6 is Ambrose Bierce's And the Currents at Elbridge. Number 5 is The Great God Pan by Arthur Machen. Number 4 is The Lottery by Shirley Jackson. Number 3 is Mimsy or The Borrowed Graves Goes Better. And 43 by Henry Kuttner and C.L. Moore. And then number 2 is The Seven Geshes by Clark Ashton Smith. And number 1 is Reggie Barlow and H.P. Lovecraft's The Night Ocean for you, folks. Alrighty. So again, those are my top 10. What are yours? Let me know what your thoughts are. What are your next top 10? Have you read those? Would you put them in this order? Write all of them down in blocks. Now, as a reminder, I'm a literary critic. I've been studying English in college and that stuff, right? So that means your opinion really is as valid as mine is because I'm not coming from a place of expertise, right? So I think you'll like that too. Right? Anyway. So, again, like I mentioned before, do lots of these top 10s. We're going to be doing short stories for a long time. I definitely enjoy those short stories. I've read thousands. So, you got lots of these good things that are coming down the pipe. Hope that's a good stuff for you folks. And then also, on tomorrow, I do Serial Saturday reviews for you folks. I do reviews of older serials, movie serials that are from many of them there. And you can check those out too. Tomorrow, I just finished the Dick Tracy serials last week, so tomorrow will be my review of the Radar Patrol 37 serial that I found to be surprisingly good about. And then on Wednesday, I do reviews of older video games and some Let's Plays too. See if you can do that. I just did on Stellar's Biogenesis DLC review, and then next week will be my top 10 video games of value that I heard that are worth their time. That you can definitely get a lot of stuff, which are going to be free. And then on Monday, I do reviews of tabletop RPGs as well as tabletop war games too, or and that sort of thing too. So you can check that out too. But I'm currently doing Dungeons & Dragons modules reviews, that sort of thing too. A couple of days ago. There you go. And if you have enjoyed all those things, then the other 3 reviews I do a week are 3 older things like this, which is where this idea comes from, the top 10 in the science fiction and horror genres too, all right? And that's thank you all. And so there's 7 reviews a week, and sometimes I'll write in some of older things that you're reading, and let's place too. If that sounds like your cup of tea, well then great. Welcome to the channel and have a seat. I think you'll enjoy your time here, right? Quite a bit. And then please do all the YouTube stuff like the subscribe button, the like button, the bell icon, to notify us of videos we and then share and watch also. Well, basically share and watch. Those are the key ways to go on this channel for you folks. And there we go. Awesome. You can tell that's also where its name comes from after all these older things. It's a quote by a French philosopher named Jacques Barron says that the worst thing about them was that they kept us from reading the old stuff, right? The stuff was more stuff we might have forgotten about in a passion for the new novel, the new video game, the new movie, right? Sometimes we forgot these things are standing on the shoulders of giants. So let's check out those giants. Not that they're bad, you don't get it. Many of these things from Lovecraft to Heinlein and that sort of thing to Beers are very heavily, and Mark Mackins is a great guy, heavily watching this stuff today. So check them all out. I think you'll enjoy it all. And there you go. And if you made it all the way to the end, I just wanted to thank you so very, very much for just taking some time out of your day and investing, right, and watching my videos. Because we all have so many things that are happening in our lives. And we're pulling so many different directions too, right? So that you spend this time with me, that's incredibly humbling. And I appreciate that so very, very much. So thanks again, and have an amazing day.